Have you ever looked at someone who rakes in like 10, 12, or even 20 times what you do and thought, how in the world is that even possible? Well, I've definitely had those thoughts. I remember chatting with one of my mentors about a certain internet personality. If I dropped their name, you'd totally know who I'm talking about. I asked, how much do you think this guy pulls in? And he was like, oh, probably around 800 grand a month. My jaw hit the floor. $800,000 a month? How do you even make that kind of cash? And this was back in 2015 when I wasn't anywhere close to making that kind of money. What I figured out is that you can actually turn your yearly income into your monthly income. When that happens, it'll totally blow your mind. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this video. One of the biggest financial light bulb moments I've ever had, and trust me, you're going to want to write this down. This wasn't just a big moment. It was one of the top 3 financial breakthroughs of my life. And it was the first one I ever had. I remember the exact moment it hit me. It was April 1999. You've probably read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? How many of you have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yeah, a lot of you have read it. So I read it too, and when I did, it was like a switch flipped. It was like, for me, the scales fell off my eyes in the wealth department in a way they never had before. The main takeaway I got from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, would be, to create wealth, focus on building income-producing assets. The reason broke people stay broke is because they are their only income-producing asset. Rich folks, on the other hand, gather income-producing assets. Daniel Priestley, in his book Key Person of Influence, says income follows assets. The more assets you have, the more income follows those assets. So I'm going to show you how I discovered this principle. It's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year. I know it sounds wild. I get it. It sounds nuts, but I'm gonna prove it to you in this video. Cool? It sounds so crazy, right? Easier to make $1 million a month than $1 million a year. It's easier to make $1 million in a week than it is to make $1 million in a month. And it's easier to make $1 million in a day than it is to make $1 million in a week. And it's easier to make $1 million in an hour than it is to make $1 million in a day. And I know for sure because I've done all of those multiple times. I'm not just talking theory here. This isn't something I read in a book or heard at a seminar. This is my life. So how can I prove to you that it's easier to make a lot of money quickly than a little money slowly? Well, here's how I can prove it. I was talking to a physicist. I was on a flight from San Diego, California to Baltimore, Maryland, many years ago. This young guy, 27, sits next to me. To me, he was young since I was in my 40s then. So I asked, what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a physicist. I was like, cool, I love physics. We talked about physics for the entire flight, about 4.5 hours. One of the questions I asked him was, what's your favorite physics principle? His name was Austin, and he lived in Boston. I'll always remember him as Austin from Boston, the physicist. So I asked Austin, what's your favorite physics principle? He said that all principles are microcosms of each other. I thought, wow, that's deep. I said, so I don't mess it up. I think I know what you mean, but can you explain it so when I share it, I get it right? He said, sure. If you take a principle from any area and put it in a different area, it still holds true. I thought, wow, that's so good. If you take a principle that works in transportation and apply it to finance, it still has to be true. From that day on, I started thinking about how principles can apply across different fields. I read a book called Innovation Secrets of Steve Jobs by Carmine Gallo. He said Steve Jobs could change the world because he saw connections between seemingly unrelated things. Jobs revolutionized 5 different industries: computers, phones, music, movies, and tablets. He turned them on their heads. Carmine Gallo said Jobs could do this because he had so many unique, broad experiences that allowed him to see connections others couldn't. For example, Jobs saw the ugly green blinking font on a computer screen and thought, these fonts are ugly. He had taken a calligraphy class in college and thought, why not make fonts beautiful? That kind of thinking changed everything for him. Now, I'm going to prove to you it's easier to make a lot of money quickly than a little money slowly. Okay, so let's imagine Tim is a runner. Tim, do you ever run a mile? Great. So can you run a mile right now if you needed to? I can't run a mile. I had polio as a kid and have a brace on my leg. I've never run anywhere in my life. I like to say I couldn't run, so I learned how to fight. So if Tim and I got in a race, how many of you would agree it wouldn't be fair for us to go the same distance? That's not fair. I can't run, he can. He'd destroy me. So let's go different distances. I'll go 2 miles. What? This makes no sense, you may think. How can I get a chance going 2 miles and Tim running for 1 mile? Since I did, and I'm a man of my word, I have to stick with it. Now we're in a race. And I'm not only going to lose because I can't run, but now I'm going farther. How many of you would bet on me? Neither I would. But if I say unless Tim is running and I'm on a bike, because I said he's going to run 1 mile and I'm going to do 2 miles, but I never said I was going to run those 2 miles. You might be wondering, what's this got to do with making money? Just hang tight, we'll get there. But that's not fair because I've got a bike. By the way, I can ride a bike 2 miles faster than he can run 1 mile. I'd go farther, faster, and use less energy. So what's the takeaway here? People who make way more money than you aren't doing it because they're working harder than you. In fact, they're making more because they're not working harder. Oh snap, but here's the kicker, that's not fair. I've got a bike. He doesn't have a bike. So we'll give him a bike and now I'll go 4 miles and he'll go 2 miles. He's gonna win again. But if I say unless again, unless I'm in a car, maybe this is what they mean by think and grow rich. But that's not fair. I've got a car. He's got a bike. So let's give Tim a car. So now Tim's got a car. He goes 50 miles. I go 100 miles. Tim wins again. Once again, unless I'm on a plane. That's not fair. I've got a plane. He's got a car. Let's give him a plane. He goes 100 miles. I go 200 miles. He wins again. Again, unless I'm on a jet. Now you're probably wondering why I keep doing this. Well, the principle is this. I can always make up and leverage what I lack in ability. It's always easier to make big strides than to make small ones. Always. It's always easier to make big strides than small ones. But because you've been programmed by society and spent most of your young life in the government indoctrination camps, aka schools, you were taught to make small advances over a long period of time. No one taught you how to make big gains quickly. How many of you are getting what I'm saying? If you are following me, write big gains in the comments below. So to make big strides, you have to think differently. I can always make up and leverage what I lack in ability, but most people don't do this because they don't understand that leveraged work is better than hard work. Leveraged work is more productive. It uses less energy. It's more effective and efficient. The reason most people never get rich is that they spend their entire life running financially. But people who make a bit more money, they get a bike. Those who make a lot more get a car. And those who make more money than they can spend, they have a plane or a jet. Some people are on intergalactic rockets when it comes to finance. If it's easier to go farther, faster, and use less energy in transportation, it has to be true that it's easier to make more money working less with the right leverage. But when you tell some people this, they get skeptical because they were programmed to be negative. Skepticism is okay. Skepticism means, I don't know you, so I don't trust you. I'll believe you when you prove it. But negativity says, I've made up my mind, don't confuse me with the facts. For those who think it can't be true, it can be. Here's why people stay broke. They say, you can always make up and leverage what you lack in ability. And they respond, yeah, but how much does leverage cost? That's a good question, but a better one is, how much does it cost not to have leverage? They say, but if I get some leverage, I'll have to learn how to use it. I don't have time to learn. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? They say, I don't know how to do that. Okay, we'll give you a pass today, but if that's still your excuse a year from now, maybe someone should take your family to safety. You can learn almost anything in a year. So we have to slow down from the running that we know isn't working and find some leverage. Pay for it if necessary. Learn how to use it if necessary, so we can change our lives. Or we can stay in the circle of sameness for the rest of our lives. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying it, but I wanted to invite you to join us at the Millionaire Mindset. We are doing videos twice per week now, and our goal is to help you change the way you think about money and personal savings. So, join us at the Millionaire Mindset. You'll be glad you did. Now back to the video you were watching. You've already heard about the 4 levels of value? In Genesis chapter 1, God set up 4 levels of value. Which one of these levels do you work on? Here's the lie we believe. If I deliver more value, I should be paid more money. The problem is, More value doesn't generally make you exponentially more money. Giving more of what's already not worth much doesn't mean you deserve more money. So instead of giving more value, learn to work at a higher level of value. All value isn't created equally. We want to deliver a lot of value at the highest levels. That's what makes you a multimillionaire. If you don't want to be a multimillionaire, deliver a little value at a higher level and double your revenue or income. The lowest level of value is implementation. Here's another thought. Wealth is a spiritual outcome. Wealth is a spiritual outcome. God isn't a God of lack. He is a God of abundance. The gold is mine, and the silver is mine, says the Lord. Wealth is a spiritual outcome. The reason implementation is the lowest level of value is that the resource you use is your muscles, times time. Muscles are a physical resource and time is limited. If you multiply a physical resource by a limited resource, you can't get an unlimited spiritual result. Am I going too fast? This is what we call, when it comes to making money, running financially. And if the only thing you do to try to increase your income is buy new running shoes, it's not going to work. That's why people keep bouncing from job to job and then head back to school to get another degree, hoping to buy a more expensive pair of shoes. But guess what? They're still running the same race. So what do we need to do? We need to level up to a higher value level. The second level of value is unification. At this level, you use your management skills times people times time to make money. Managing people is a higher spiritual activity than doing everything yourself. This is what we call leverage by delegation. So, you leverage by delegating tasks to others. On the first level, you're making anywhere between minimum wage and $80,000 a year, like if you're working on high-end cars or something. But at this second level, you can make somewhere between $40,000 and $250,000 a year. $250,000 a year sounds a lot better, right? But when it comes to income, here's a tip. I like floors but not ceilings. In other words, I have a minimum amount I won't go below, but there's no maximum amount I won't go above. You with me? Now, above this line is where wealth creation really kicks in. Here, you could make anywhere from 100K to 100 million. What is this level? It's called communication. At this level, you use your mouth to make money. Somehow talking can bring in more cash than hammering nails or carrying bricks. Carrying bricks is way harder, right? But people who talk for a living can make way more money than someone driving a truck across the country. Driving a truck is tough work, but pay isn't based on how hard the work is. It's about the value of the work. When you can communicate effectively, you can create messages that move the masses and have conversations that create cash flow. And the cool thing about language? Only spiritual beings have it. Think about the money in your wallet, whether it's a 20 bill or a 100 bill. What backs it? Nothing since Nixon took us off the gold standard. So why is $100 worth 100? Because we believe it's worth it. The message it carries and the faith it creates make it valuable. Language and faith are both spiritual. Are you following me? Instead of getting a better job, it would serve you and your family better to become a better communicator. You could make $100,000 a year selling cars. But if you're an A-list actor, singer, or a top writer, you could make $100 million a year. Actors make millions pretending to be someone else. Imagine how much you could make delivering a real message. That's a total game changer. When I was a kid, adults always said, children are to be seen and not heard. We were taught not to talk. If you talked in school, you got in trouble. So talking for a living was never something we dreamed of. Writing books, selling stuff, writing songs, those things seemed out of reach. They told us we weren't smart enough to write books or good enough to sing songs, and we believed them. That lie has cost us a fortune. So $100,000, 100 million, and then there's the top level. This isn't crazy, it's real. The top level is imagination. This is where the great fortunes are made. At this level, you use your mind and money to make more money. At the low end of this level, you're making at least $1 million a year. I remember back in 2005, I was making about $30,000 a month. I thought I was living large. My expenses were around $5,000 a month, so I felt like a king. I went to a Robert G. Allen Wealth Retreat seminar in Washington, D.C. Robert G. Allen is someone I learned a lot from. I read a lot of his books, including his book on internet marketing called Multiple Streams of Internet Marketing. At the seminar, he asked for a testimonial and I shared my story. I told him how I used to be a trash man making $6.25 an hour, and now I was making $30,000 a month. He was impressed and said I was about to have a breakthrough to even bigger money. There were 700 people there, and my first thought was, did he just diss my $30,000 a month in front of all these people? But then I thought, wait, there's a level where $30,000 a month isn't a lot of money. Oh, let's go! The only limits you have are the ones in your mind that make you put on the brakes when you should be stepping on the gas. You're talking sense now. We even have trillionaires in the world now. I promise you, the people above this line aren't worried about recessions. They have too much financial momentum. You can give yourself a raise just by making a decision, not a choice. A choice is picking one option, but a decision means cutting off any other possibility. When you decide this is what you're going to do and nothing will stop you, you become unstoppable. So you're high end now? People are making trillions. Trillions. Those above this dotted line aren't part of a recession. Why? Because they're out there making things happen. You can literally give yourself a raise by deciding to do so. Not choosing, deciding. Choosing means picking one, but deciding means cutting off any other options. When you decide this is what you're going to do, this is what your life will be about, and nothing will stop you from achieving your dreams, you become unstoppable. Yeah, but you don't get it. I'm a woman and this guy can't stop me. I'm a black man in a white man's world. A white man can't stop me. I'm a white man in a black man's world. A black man can't stop me. Seriously, there's no excuse. The only thing holding you back is in your head. You go around acting like these limitations exist around you when they only exist within you. I'm telling you, if you get better at thinking and talking, you will make more money. I'm not saying you might. You definitely will. If you decide to enter a career where, instead of just managing people who are doing stuff or doing stuff yourself, you choose to communicate messages that create cash flow, it'll change your life forever. Here's what blows my mind. I've told thousands of people what I'm about to tell you. Some of them still haven't started. What I'm about to share is that if we have an $800,000 month, we had a bad month. If we hit $1,000 in a month, it's not a good month. And I'm not bragging, but I'm here to tell you that you can raise your floor and eliminate your ceiling, and it'll change your life. Well, how can I say a $1,000 month isn't a good month? Because I've decided I don't want a floor that's at $1,000 anymore. Who decides this? Comment below right now saying, I decide. So if you decide to go into a career, let's talk about these careers. What can you do to move up here? You could become an A-list actor or singer. What are the chances? Not great. How many of you agree that's not great, right? That's not great. Sure, I could become an actor. I'm pretty dramatic. Just saying. Don't laugh too loud. You might hurt my feelings. So becoming an A-list actor is unlikely. You could become a pop star or rap star or a pro athlete. But pro athletes are down here. They do well for a short time, but then what? They wreck their bodies and most retire broke. But up here, since being the next Beyonce or Taylor Swift is unlikely, or the next Denzel Washington, what else can you do? Here's something any of us could do. Here's something any of you watching this could do. Anyone could write a book. I remember before I wrote my first book, I went to a book marketing conference in Orlando. I lived in Pennsylvania. The conference was 5 days long, and I spent $18,000 on courses and coaching to become a best-selling author. One stat they gave at the conference was that over 500,000 books are published annually in the US. I thought, okay. So I wrote my book. Guess how many copies I printed in the first run? 500. When the book got published, I sent an email to my list. Guess how many I sold the first week? 900 books. I had to go back to print immediately. I was like, what? I was like, oh snap, this book thing is a thing. Just from our books, we generate between $30,000 to $100,000 a month, and I don't even have a publisher. I self-publish my books. I tell people this. So why and how does that happen? Here's what I tell people all the time. I started on YouTube. You don't have to be smart. I mean, it helps, but it's not necessary. I started on YouTube on March 15, 2007. You tracking with me? I found out about YouTube monetization in October 2021. I was on YouTube for 14 years before I knew about YouTube monetization. By the time I turned on monetization, our channel had just under 10,000 subscribers. I left all that money on the table. Then we got consistent with videos. I decided to make a video once a week, post it once a week, and see if I could get good at it for 10 years. But I got excited. We got a lot of views and subscribers. I thought maybe I'll do 2 videos a week. We started doing 2 videos a week. We did 8 videos starting in April of last year. We had 10,500 subscribers last year. Hear me out. We had 10,500 subscribers and I started doing 2 videos a week, 1 recorded, 1 live. Guess what happened? The first month we made $1,400,000 from YouTube. The second month, $15,000. The next month, $27,000. The next month, $44,000. This might not happen for you. Just keeping it real. I didn't expect it to happen for me. The reason it did is because I spent 14 years getting good at talking and practicing. The more you practice, the better you get. That's why I say start a YouTube channel. Decide to do a consistent monthly or weekly video for 10 years. And after 10 years, I promise you, you will be good. You'll probably make more money on YouTube than I am now. By the way, the money YouTube pays us, which is between $35,000 to $50,000 a month, is less than 5% of our business revenue. Why? Because YouTube is where people find me. You know why? I open my mouth and turn on a camera. I keep telling people that. If you're going to operate up here in the communication realm, you need to use your mouth. How many of you qualify so far? Then you have to be willing to create a message that people care about. How do you do that? You read the innovation secrets of Steve Jobs and start applying the principle that all principles are microcosms of each other. Then you read more books, watch less TV, and find concepts that work for you. Make them work for you, then go back to the marketplace and report on how they worked. The more you read, talk, and write, the better you get at communicating and thinking. You can speak without thinking, but you can't think without using words. Communication is key for the top levels of value. The best communicators with the best ideas will always make the most money. That's how you turn your yearly income into your monthly income faster than you think. Hope this helps you. Stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.